What's up, everybody? We're back. Another episode of From Prison to Purpose, and I'm your host, Jimmy McGill. I am a returning citizen from incarceration. I've got an amazing life today. I'm a public speaker. I'm an author. I'm a lot of things, but most importantly, I'm all of those things because I'm a person in recovery. Today, we are going to be meeting with an all-time fan favorite, Zach in the Straw Hat. So if you follow us on social media, just know that it was by popular demand, as it always is with the guys that live at Next Step Recovery Housing. You always want to hear longer stories. You want longer content of the residents. And so Zach, who started as just a normal intake, was it Logan County Jail?
Yeah.
Logan County Jail is where we got Zach. And Zach has just touched a year clean, and now he is the property manager of a 38-bed recovery facility. So that's a pretty amazing story. Zach, how are you?
Doing great, Jimmy. Thank you for having me. A little nervous, but I'm doing great.
Yeah, when the music stopped and the intro came in, you got scared, didn't you?
No, not scared. Just kind of like, oh, here we go.
Oh, it's a real talk show.
Yeah.
Oh, people are going to hear it.
It's going to be all right.
They're going to see it.
It's going to be okay.
They're going to see it. It's better. At least you're not being seen on the news.
There you go. Yeah.
Have you ever been on the news?
A couple times.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Like Paris Most Wanted?
In 2014, I made statewide news for some stuff over in Crawford County.
What'd you do?
Stole some tractors. Well,
wow.
Yeah. Stole some tractors.
Most people steal a DVD or a VCR. You stole a whole tractor.
A couple of them, and
boy,
damaged them. It was a bad deal. It wasn't. It started out, man, such an innocent thing. Started out getting the car stuck in these bottoms, and next thing you know, we have got all of Crawford County's finest looking for us, and it turned into an all day eluding and invading, and I think a vehicle got stolen, and there was a 3-county chase. It was a big deal.
You was running, boy.
Yeah.
You was not trying to go to jail.
I was not wanting to get caught that day.
Ain't no dope in jail.
I guarantee it was all in my pocket at that time. It was just,
yeah, you was trying to make sure you had fun that night.
Yeah, it wasn't a good deal.
So where you from, Zach?
I'm from a little town called Subiaco, Arkansas. If you blink twice, you'll miss it. I think it's got one convenience store in it. And I grew up there, was raised by my grandparents. When I was a young kid, my mother was in active addiction. Her life was so unmanageable that she wasn't able to take care of us at that time. So she gave custody of my brother and myself up to my grandmother. And she moved off to Florida to get clean. And so my grandparents raised me and my brother. We grew up in it was a stable, for the most part, it was stable. I mean, my grandpa was always working out on the road. My dad was too. So it was just me and my brother and my grandmother throughout the week. And then on the weekends, my dad and my grandpa would come in. And, yeah, growing up, I had I couldn't ask for a better childhood. As far as I was concerned, my grandmother and my grandfather, for the most part, were my mom and dad. They were there for the biggest part of my life. Early on, memories of my mother, I can remember going, when school was out, being kindergarten through 5th grade. Whenever summer was out, we would go to Florida and visit her. And she had moved down there with a full-blown alcoholic who abused her all the time. And I can remember the first time that we went down there, I wasn't very old. I was probably 5 or 6 years old. And we went down there. And for whatever reason it was, I'm not sure. I'm still unsure what the reason was. I can remember that me and my brother were sleeping in these bunk beds that we had set up. And she come in there in the middle of the night saying, we got to go. We got to get out of here. And waking us up. And like I said, I wasn't very old. She picked me up, was carrying me. My brother was running alongside us. He had her, or she had his hand, and we were running. We run out of the trailer house and down the driveway because we lived out in the middle of nowhere. I'm talking, our nearest neighbor was like 2 miles away, and us getting almost to the end of the driveway before her boyfriend at the time come out with a shotgun and was shooting at us. And I remember the gun going off, and there was dirt like flying up, beside us where the pellets was hitting, and him screaming that he was going to kill us.
Mm.
And we ended up spending all night in a in a drainage ditch, like a big culvert pipe.
Yeah.
And then right before daylight, I remember her telling us to wait right here. I'm gonna go see if it's all right if we can go back to the house. And so me and my brother were sitting there scared. We didn't know what was going on, had no clue. And so she left us there and then went back to the house, and she come got her later on, and we went back to the house because he had fell asleep. And it was just nonstop chaos like that. The memories that I had, of going down there. There were some good memories though. I mean, when he wasn't, but for the most part, he would go to work, come home, drink all day, and then get violent. And so uh, me and my brother spent most of my life under the care of my grandmother and my grandfather and my dad. My dad was in the picture uh, for the most of it. Just on weekends, whenever I'd see him, he'd come in from work and he would take us hunting and fishing and stuff like that. Later on, I was to fast forward. I was probably, I think, 10 or 11 whenever she come back in my life. My mom, and she moved back. She was clean at this point. She had got away from her boyfriend. Um, she got a house in town, and I'd moved in with her. And she was working a minimum wage job, I think at Napa at the time, and it was all she could do to take care of me. And by the age of 11, I had already, discovered marijuana from a friend at school.
Where did you go to school?
At Paris, yeah, Paris. So, like I said, at the age of about 11, I experienced marijuana, and it was just, it took over from there. I mean, I like the feeling that I got when I smoked it.
So how did who was the friend that introduced you to the marijuana? Like, I mean, how did that come about?
Okay, so there was, I was in, at that time, I think I was in the 6th or 7th grade. And there was a new kid, and his name was Eric. He come to school. He transferred from another school, and I remember him coming into the classroom and thinking, "Damn, he's a big kid like me," because I was always a bigger kid. And so at first there was like almost like an altercation between me and him, to size each other up. And
At 11.
Yeah, at 11, that was
alpha male.
Yeah, that
11-year-old
exactly.
Terminators.
Exactly. And then after that, we just kicked it off. We were friends, and he invited me over to his house. And at that point, when I stayed under the care of my grandparents, I'd never went and spent the night at anybody besides family, like cousins or something. So he was one of the first people that I got to go spend the night with. Well, I went over to his house, and I remember getting off the school bus at his house, and his mom was at work. It was just me and him, and he took me out behind his house, and there was this old Chevy car. It was like a 50-something model Chevy car that was half buried in the ground. It had been sitting there so long, and there was this hole beside it, and I want to say it was an armadillo hole. I don't know. Maybe it was a hole he dug. I don't know, but it was a hole beside the car. And he took me out there, and he's like, reach down that hole. And I looked at him, I'm like, man, I'm not sticking my arm down there. Why? He's like, well, so he reached down there and he grabbed out, and he pulled out a Coke can, and it was bent. It was all like bent up, and there was these little holes stabbed in it. And at that time, I'd never seen anything like it. I didn't know what I was even looking at.
You just Get your smoke on.
Yeah, and he had this, and then he pulled this cellophane out, this cigarette cellophane, and it had a bunch of green stuff in it. And he's like, "You ever smoked weed before?" And I was like, "No, I've never smoked weed before." And so he's like, "You want to smoke some?" I'm like, "Well, sure. How do I do this?" And he's like, "Well, just hold the can." And he's like, "Watch out, it's got a carburetor on it." I'm like, "Carburetor? What's that? What's that?" You know.
Where does an 11-year-old learn that at? How old was he? Was he 11?
He was the same age I was now. It was just it was a normal thing for him, you know. And I hadn't been 11 years old.
Hitting the Coke can.
Yeah.
With the alpha male other 11-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah.
What made that little boy have influence over you like that?
I don't know, man. To be honest with you.
And how do you know what an armadillo hole looks like?
I grew up in the country, man. I know what some armadillo holes look
you
like.
You had enough sense to not stick your arm in there.
I did. I know you don't reach your hand in holes.
The way the rest of your life was determined by that Coke can, you'd have been better off grabbing an armadillo.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So what happened when you hit the Coke can?
I remember hitting it a couple of times and thinking, well, this is not doing anything but choking me, you know. And he's like, "Are you high?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm high." You know, I was faking it the whole time. I didn't even really get high. I just got choked out, really. I remember a nasty taste. And then it was
nasty.
Yeah. And then so it was an everyday thing after that, you know. "Hey, you want to go over to my house?" "Well, cool. My mom's at work. I ain't got nothing to do. Let's go over to your house." And we smoked weed every day after that. And so I remember when I first did experience the high of marijuana, it was just like I laughed and giggled, and we ate everything in his house and passed out.
Isn't that funny how weed does it?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing it ever did to me was make me so paranoid that I was stupid. I mean, I was so paranoid. And eat. I'd spend $10 on a dime sack of weed and eat $100 worth of junk food. Makes no sense to me.
Let's see here. Fast forward a little bit. So I talked about my brother. Dylan is his name, and he's such a great person. Well, growing up, Dylan was he's the kind of man that he does everything to the fullest. He's never done any kind of drugs in his life. He may drink a little bit of beer here and there, you know, but he handles his business. And growing up in school, he was 5.5 years older than I was, and we were inseparable at all through childhood. I can remember my mom telling me that whenever I was still in diapers and she had care of me, that there was times that she would crash out for days at a time, and my brother would be the one that would feed me. And so I can remember her telling me that if it wasn't for your brother, then you probably wouldn't be here. Because he took care of me. And I mean, like I said, we were inseparable there for many years until about the time he hit teenage years and or high school, anyways. And he was a very popular kid. He was great in all sports. He broke records in football, and he did track. And so whenever I got to up in high school, I was known as Dylan's little brother, And the sports that I had tried, I was like good, but not to hit. I could never fill the shoes that he had set. The records that he had set, I couldn't break, and so I started to feel some type of way about that. I guess at that point he had a group of friends that he hung out with, and I was just a little brother that was trying to fit in and hang out, and could never, I guess, fit in, and so by me meeting Eric and discovering the weed. It was kind of that was a road that I had chosen to take. I guess it was a more acceptable. I went from to smoking this substance that I'd never seen before to wanted to learn everything about it, wanted to know how I could get it, and so that's what I did.
So
And
how did you get your first bag of weed that wasn't somebody else's?
um, well, it was he introduced me to uh, the kids that he was getting it from, and then
Well, I figured you were going to say like he stole it from his parents or something, but
no,
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 he was actually buying weed at 11.
yeah, it was,
That's pretty insane, man.
yeah, it is. I mean, the small town that I came from, man, it just blows my mind how easy drugs are to obtain.
Yeah.
You know,
So what came after the weed?
um,
Meth, pills, alcohol. What?
it was meth. Let's see. The first time I did meth, I want to say 17.
So you didn't do anything but weed till you from
Yeah,
11 to 17.
weed
No
and
alcohol.
oh yeah, alcohol. That was a daily thing. I mean, the town, like I said, we would have parties on the weekends, and there would be that would be like the meetup place. Everybody at school would be like, "Hey, whose house you going to?" There were several, and when it could be anywhere from somebody's house to just a field and a bonfire.
Yeah.
And there would be several kids from school that would just show up there. And a lot of those parents, they knew, as long as you're just keeping it there and not out running around, that they were okay with it.
Ain't that such a small town, way of thinking? I'd rather my kid do it here than out there so I can keep him safe. And
Yeah.
in the end, you're not keeping anyone safe. Addiction or alcoholism always ends in progression.
Yeah, I can
Right.
remember I had some buddies that their parents would they would go buy us alcohol and
Yeah.
and y'all come over to the house, and they'd have 4 or 5 cases of beer, and we'd just sit around in the shop drinking.
Yeah. So when you get introduced to the meth, what was the first time you did that like?
The first time I was at a football game, sitting in the stands, and a buddy of mine had called me. I had a flip phone at that time, and no, it was a little Nokia. That's what it was. It was
Yeah,
a little Nokia.
they didn't even flip. They just long phone slide right in your pocket.
Yeah, got the T9 texting and all that, and so I remember getting a phone call, and a buddy of mine was like, "Hey," and he's like, "Come down to the parking lot. I want to show you something." So I went down, got in his truck, and he was a couple years older than I was. And so I got in his truck, and he had this CD case with these white lines chopped out on it. And he's like, "You ever tried any cocaine before?" And I'm like, "No, I ain't never tried no cocaine before." And he's like, "Man,
why are you whispering, Zach?
I don't know. That's just how it was,
Hey,
But
listen,
he's like,
we ain't got to keep it a secret no more, Zach. I need to hear you in the
well,
mic.
this is how it was, in my head. So I guess I'm replaying it.
Yeah.
He was whispering, and so I'm like, "No, I ain't never tried it." So he's like, "Oh man, it's great," So I remember doing it, and it burned, and I'm like,
Well, then it wasn't coke.
it wasn't coke. You know what I'm saying? This is
That was
I'm
the
getting
meth.
I'm getting to it. You know what I'm saying? So it burned, and I remember, hell, I think I stayed up for like 3 days, 3 nights. Just wired. Felt like Superman. Felt like I could do anything. And come to find out. A couple of days after that, when I crashed, come down, I was like, "Man, I want to get some more of that cocaine." So I called him up, and he's like, "Nah, man, my dude's out. I can't get none." So I called a guy that I was getting some weed off of, a buddy of mine that I was getting some weed off of. I'm like, "Hey, man, can you get some cocaine?" He's like, "Yeah, I can. Wow, what's up?" I'm like, "Well, I want to get some." So he took me to this apartment complex, and there was some black dudes there, and he's like, "Well, just give me your money. How much you want?" I'm like, here's $200. How much can I get with that? He's like, "I don't know. I'll go see." So he went and got some and come back, and it was like an 8-ball. He got me an 8-ball, and I never even seen 8-ball at that time. And so I'm like, cool, I'm cool with this, And so I remember getting in the vehicle and chopping up some lines and doing it. My whole face went numb, my throat went numb, and going down the road, and I'm like, I couldn't even hardly
Got a
swallow.
frog in your
Couldn't even
throat.
hardly
Yeah.
swallow. I'm like, this
The
is
exact opposite of what the
yeah.
meth
I'm like,
did.
dude, this is not cocaine. You know what I'm saying? He's like, yes, this is some fire coke. And I'm like, no, it ain't. So I'm raged. You know what I mean? I'm getting mad because all it is my throat's numb and I'm freaking out. I'm like, man, they got over on us. They sold us something that was not what I'm trying to get.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I'm wanting to go burn down the apartment complex.
You got to get them.
Yeah, I'm thinking, man, they done got me. And a couple of my buddies, they schooled me on the deal. They're like, man, this is cocaine. I don't know what you tried. It had to been meth, and I'm freaking out because I'm like, meth, oh God.
Yeah. The devil's drug. Yeah.
So, well, I'm like, well, and then I get thinking in my head, well, I don't like cocaine. I like meth, So where can I get some meth at?
Yeah, take this back.
Yeah.
Let me swap you.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So it was just on from there,
So you accidentally did meth thinking it was cocaine.
Yeah.
Then got mad when you went back the next weekend and bought real cocaine, thinking that it was going to be the meth that you accidentally thought was cocaine.
Yeah.
You've confused me with your drug addiction, Zach.
Hey, I didn't know what was going on at that point in my life.
That is freaking hilarious.
All I know is that I tried something, I liked it, and I wanted more of it, and I had to have it. And so that
isn't that a song? I like it.
Maybe a country song.
Yeah. Well, you did say you grew up with armadillos.
Oh, so. Yeah, for sure.
All right, so the meth's in the picture now. So what's life look like for Zach after 17 from trying coke and meth?
Well, at that point, I'm still living at home. I'm a senior about to graduate. I'm partying all the time. I ain't got a care in the world. All right. Getting towards graduation, I can remember my brother, he had went off to college. He was going to get a business degree. He was working for the Forest Service, which he still does to this day. But he was the first one in my family to go to college and successfully graduate college. So it was a big deal. And that I was the complete opposite. I didn't, in high school, my grades were just enough to graduate, so to say. I can remember my dad asking me, he said, son, what are you going to do when you graduate in a couple of weeks? And I said, I have no idea. And he said, I'll tell you what. He said, if you want to go to college, he said, I'll pay for it. You can go get you a degree. And I said, nah, Dad, I'm pretty much done with school. And he said, okay. He said, have you thought about what you want to do for work? And I said, no, I ain't thought about it.
I ain't working either. Yeah. I ain't going to school. I want cocaine, meth.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I couldn't think past the next day. So he says, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. He said, when you graduate, I'm going to give you 2 weeks to party and do whatever you want to.
Nice.
He said, but after the 2 weeks,
I'll pass.
Yeah, he said, after the 2 weeks, I want you to pack up enough clothes for 14 days. That means 14 pairs of socks, 14 underwear, 14 pants, 14 shirt. I'm like, okay, where am I going? He said, you're going out on the road to work with me, pipelining. And at that time, I thought, cool, because my dad, he had always been working throughout my life. He was very seldom home. I might see him one day a week if I was lucky. And so I thought this is going to be cool working with my old man. This will give us time to reconnect and stuff. And so I graduate, go out on the road with him, and to find out that was one of the toughest times throughout my life is working with your old man. He had built, he was well known and well respected at what he done. And, I remember the first day that we showed up out in Western Oklahoma, we pulled out on a job site and there was probably 40 something men out there on this job site. And he just starts yelling, like, get out, get this. And I have no idea what he's talking about. And I guess the more the dumb look that I had on my face, the more mad he got. You know, it was, I don't know, it was really tough working for my old man. Some days were fun.
Now, did you do drugs then when you were
Well,
working with your dad?
yeah, but I kept it. You know, what I mean, I didn't do it with him or around him.
Yeah.
It was, you know, it was. I smoked weed. You know, he knew I smoked weed.
So it sounds like you had a lot of trauma growing up. You know what I mean? A lot of drug use, a lot of alcoholism, and
Yeah, of course.
putting marijuana and weed on a 11 and 12 and 13-year-old brain is never good. So how old are you in incarceration? Your first trip to jail, what was that?
That was in 2014.
How old? Let me reframe that. How old were you the first time you went to jail?
21, I believe. I think I was.
What'd you go to jail for?
A residential burglar.
21 years old.
Yeah.
So how'd you go from working on the pipeline to breaking in houses?
There was no. I take that back. I was 23. I was 24. I'm sorry, because I was 21. I had my first kid, my oldest son. There was a time period when I worked out on the road. I just got homesick. I was like, man, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. You know, I want to move home and find a job around there. So I did that. And when I came back, it was just full-time drug use.
Yeah.
There was no job that I ever held down for any substantial time, maybe a couple months at a time. And, it was just misery, really. I remember the first crime I committed, a buddy of mine at that point, the money that I'd made from pipelining was quite a bit for an 18-year-old. You know, you think about it, I was bringing home almost $800 to $1,000 a week at 18 years old, and doing that for a couple of years. I had quite a bit of money. You know, at that time I had a vehicle and not a lot of bills, so I was able to, you know, save up some money. And whenever I come back, it was just I'd buy a couple ounces of dope, and whoever was around me at that time, I was high and I was getting them high, you know, and that was the lifestyle. It seemed like. So 2014, a buddy of mine that I was hanging out with, I had already depleted all my funds and was looking to come up, so to say. And he's like, man, I got this lick. We can go hit. And I'm like, all right, what is it? He's like, man, I've been watching this house for 3 days. Nobody in, nobody out. It's got to be filled with stuff. And I'm like, all right, let's go, you know.
Right now, sign
Right now. I think it was like 10:30.
So you're done. You done ran through your money in the pipeline, and your friend's like, I got an easy lick.
Yeah.
And you're with it. You're ready to go.
Yeah.
So what happens when he asks you to go hit this lick with him?
I'm like, let's go. You know, are you sure that nobody's home? He's like, well, I'm not sure that anybody's home, but there hasn't been anybody in and out of this house for 3 days. I've been watching it. And I'm like, all right, well, let's go check it out. So we drive by, and it's like 10:30 at nighttime. And so we drive by the place a couple times. You know, we drive down the road, turn around, come back, and it's set way off up on this hill. And I'm like, so what's the game plan? And he's like, all right, check this out, man. We're going to go up there. We'll knock on the door. If anybody answers, we're selling Omaha steaks at 10:30 at nighttime.
Wow.
You know, and if nobody answers on the third knock, we're just going to kick the door in.
So let me ask you something. Do they sell steaks a lot at 10:30 at night where you from?
It was a great idea at the time. You know what I mean?
Are you on co-meth?
Yeah, I think I was on anything and everything, man.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're selling steaks. You're going to go up and rob this house.
Yeah.
At 10:30 at night, you beat on the door pretending to sell steaks.
Yeah, beat on the door. Nobody. When I'm talking about beat on the door like the police. And,
why do you think nobody would answer the door at 10:30 at night?
Oh, they're probably sleeping. That's what normal people.
Or there's a lunatic outside knocking on my door in the middle of the night.
Yeah. So we rack on the door a couple times, and we're listening and we don't hear nothing. And so I'm like, what are you gonna do? He's like, I'm gonna go around the back. I said, all right. So he walks around the back, and I'm sitting on the front porch. I give him a couple minutes, and so I walk around the side of the house to the back, and get to the back door. No lights come on. We just sit there and we sit and we listen for about 10 minutes. And I'm like, screw it, man. I'm going to go through there.
Mm.
And so I put the boot to the door and we go in, and thank God that the house was empty, And
What'd you get?
I think we ended up getting 4 4-wheelers and 2 dirt bikes.
That clearly was not inside the house.
No, that was in the garage. We made several trips in and out of this house with a single truck or a single cab truck.
Whose house was it?
I don't even know.
How'd you get caught?
There was a kid that I went to school with, a buddy of mine, that at that time I felt like he was a pretty solid dude. Was getting between him and his old lady were getting this huge script of Xanaxes and hydrocodones. And
so now you're on pills.
I'm on everything at that point. I mean,
time you break in the house, you're coke, meth, weed, booze, pills,
everything, anything that could change,
all the things,
anything that can change the feeling that I had. I mean, I was full blown at that time, and wound up at this dude's house, and he was in this camper outside behind his house, and my buddy that was with me, he had been up for days, and he kept passing out. So I help him in this camper, and we're sitting in this old beat up camper, and we done got all these 4-wheelers and stuff stashed out. Everything's well. I get talking to dude, and he's got these Xanax bars, and he's got these hydrocodones, and I think at that time he got like 130 or 120. It was something of each a month, and so did his old lady. So they had plenty of pills, And I got talking to him. I'm like, man, is there anything that you might want or need? Because if you had something that I wanted, then I'm working for you. I'm gonna try to get it.
Yeah, I need my paycheck.
Yeah, and he's like, and it was crazy because he was like, this might sound weird, but I've always wanted a 4-wheeler, and a light bulb just went off, and I thought, yeah, really? I said, well, I'll tell you what, buddy. I said, I've got one of the baddest ass 4-wheelers you've ever seen, and I'm trying to get rid of it right now. And he looked at me like I was crazy. He's like, you got a 4-wheeler? I'm like, yeah, brand new one, buddy, brand new one. I said, you want to do some trading? He's like, well, what are you wanting? I'm like, well, this camper's pretty cool. What would you get rid of it for? And he's like, I don't know, man. I don't really want to get rid of the camper. And I said, I'll tell you what, man, for the camper, that shotgun you got over there, them pair of J's you had on his feet. He had a pair of J's on his feet that my buddy had wanted whenever we got there, but he's like, nah, man, I didn't get $200 for these. I'm not coming off of them.
Yeah.
I'm like, for the camper, the shotgun, them J's, and half your script for the month, I said, I'll bring you the baddest 4-wheeler you've ever seen in your life. And he looked at me like I was dumb. I said, if you give me 15 minutes, if I'm not back with the baddest 4-wheeler you ever seen, don't ever fuck with me again.
Yeah.
And he's like, huh? So my buddy, he's asleep. He's passed out. I'm like, if he wakes up, now he might be back in a second. So I left, shoot off, take the vehicle, go get one. And I'm back. I'm back in 15 minutes. And I'm driving this thing out the back of this truck. Whoa, 4-wheel drive. It was like a Kawasaki Brute Force 750, 4-wheel drive all time.
Yeah.
And he's looking like, wow, it's still got tips on the tires. It's brand new. And I said, so what do you want me to make a deal or what? And he's like, what's the deal on the 4? I'm like, I'm going to tell you what, dude. It's a little warm.
Just a little.
It's a little warm. But I said, as long as you park it behind your house and you don't drive it around town, you're cool. You're good. Little did he know it only come from about a quarter mile from his house.
Wow.
Yeah,
you set him up on the cool. I mean, on the cool,
Hey,
you screwed him over. I mean,
well, here's how it went down. Okay.
ain't no went down. You done put that boy in a trick sack, Zach.
Hey,
You don't
I'm
stole
trying.
his neighbor's four
I'm trying
wheeler.
to get what he's got, Jimmy. All right.
And now you got what you got. He don't put you in the penitentiary.
Well, okay. So we do the deal, right? And he's like, "Well, come back tomorrow, and I'll have the title for the camper." I'm like, "Look, man, I'm already fixing to shoot this other stuff. I'm fixing to shoot this
Now,
down to Russellville."
I got to stop you and ask you something.
Yeah.
Did you even consider that he knew the guy?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No,
Do you think they knew each other?
I don't think they did.
A quarter mile's not far. I know all my neighbors within a quarter mile.
Well, he's not the neighborly type. He was more the type to stay at home, secluded,
Hi.
and tweak. You know what I'm saying?
Let me tear your TV up with this butter knife.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, even you could really pilfer through his house for days, and not get nowhere. So
Hoarder.
yeah,
I hate that.
Oh,
Golly, that
yeah.
it makes me cringe, man.
So I'm like, check
Twacked out.
Check this out, man. I gotta run and take care of some business. I didn't tell him what I'm doing, but in the back of my mind, I gotta get rid of these other 4-wheelers and stuff. I gotta take them to the plug's house. So I leave, and the next day he gives me some bullshit excuse about how the title was wrapped up in his grandmother's safe, and that he couldn't get it, and that the pills that he had at the time, it would be next month, and I'm getting more aggravated. And so I'm like, look, dude, we ain't playing this shit. Just give me the 4-wheeler back, and I'll go on my separate ways. Well, he couldn't produce it. He said that somebody stole it. Well, little did I know that he called the sheriff's department and told him that I'd brought a stolen 4-wheeler to his property after I had left his house that night. And
why did he do that?
I don't
That's
know.
an odd thing to do for somebody hustling in the street game.
Maybe he was
working for him, or maybe he was in trouble.
I really don't know. I just know that's how it went down for whatever reason.
That's how you got busted the first time.
The first time I did. I ended up.
So did you go to prison over that charge?
No. I ended up getting 5 years probation, and had to pay back $20-something thousand restitution. I'm still paying on today.
Nice.
Yeah.
So when you went to prison, how long after that was it that you went to prison your first time?
2021.
So what was your first day in prison like?
First day in prison.
I mean, I heard you talking about it outside. It's pretty funny. Tell me about that.
Okay, so going through intake, I get back in the one-man cell, and I'm sitting there, and the little glass, the window is about 4 inches wide, and it's looking the main entrance of the prison. And
which prison was it?
The Malvern.
Malvern.
Yeah, Malvern.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm all I got so much adrenaline rushing through me, that first that like the anxious feeling that you
was
got.
You scared on your first trip to prison?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people say they weren't. Do you believe that?
No, I don't believe that.
I don't believe there's a man walking in that hallway on day one that's not scared.
No, if they tell you they wasn't scared, they're fucking lying.
Fibbers.
Yeah. So I'm sitting in this window, and they got this like little knockoff ambulance. I don't know what it was called down there, but it's around here.
What do you mean a knockoff ambulance?
Okay, so I say that around here it says EMT on the ambulance. Now theirs down there is different than here. So
is it like a prison ambulance?
I'm guessing. I can't remember what's on the side of it. It's like life something or another. I don't know what it is, but
okay.
But it looks
it's an ambulance.
It's an ambulance, yeah. It just doesn't have EMT on the side of it,
Okay.
So it's going in and out.
Of the prison?
Of the prison, and throughout the night. And I'm thinking, damn, I see these lights in and out, and it's leaving.
So let me stop you. It's your first day in prison. You're staring out the window because you're stuck in a cell.
Yeah.
And all you keep seeing is this ambulance with its lights and sirens flashing, pulling in and out of the prison.
Yeah. I'm like, man, this is crazy. And the next day,
Shark Tank.
Yeah, I remember the next day the hall porter or the barracks porter coming in, and he's cleaning the barracks, and when you first get down there, man, it's like they come the guys they'll come like from cell to cell and check you out. Hey man, you got any watches? You know, they want to trade for commissary or envelopes or something like that. They're trying to hustle you. And dude was walking by and I'm like, say man, I'm like, what's the deal on that ambulance? What happened? And he was like, oh man, somebody over in one barracks got beat up, jumped, and somebody over in two barracks got stabbed up and jumped. And then somebody over in it's like four barracks. I don't know. Two barracks, I don't know. But he was like, they got beat up and raped. And I'm thinking, gosh, what the
So
hell?
one barracks got what?
They got beat up.
And then the other barracks was
Yeah, beat up and stabbed.
beat up and stabbed, and then somebody got beat up and violated.
Yeah. And I'm like,
Boy, they done sent you to Angola.
I'm like, what the hell have I gotten into,
Oh, yeah.
So the fear definitely set in then,
So how long were you there before they tried to, get you?
No, it never happened like that.
I mean, it's okay. It's just from prison to purpose. You can talk about the incident.
There was no incident. No, it was pretty. It was straight. You know what I'm saying? I kept to myself.
So what was your response to the barracks porter? I mean,
I was like, "You're shitting me," and he's like, "Nah, man, it gets crunk over there. They call it the jungle." And I'm like, thinking in my head, "Damn, I hope they don't put me in that barracks,"
Yeah.
But it was an in and out thing. I think I stayed there for I don't know, like 18 days, and then they shipped me to Pine Bluff.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I was down there like 6-8 months, something like that.
Yeah. So did you encounter any like gang activity? I know that white supremacy is kind of a growing big thing in Arkansas. Did you see any of that?
Oh yeah.
Did they try to recruit you?
They did. They asked me if I was affiliated, and I said, "No, man, I'm not. I'm here to do my time. Get on down."
You're a big old dude too, Zach. Like you're a big guy. So how long were you in prison before the white gang members tried to recruit you?
It was instantly. I mean, as soon as I touched down there, they asked me what my name was, and I got a cousin that is affiliated, so my name, they knew my name, they knew him, they knew me. And I just told them, man, I'm not trying to get a part of it, man. I'm just trying to do my time and get on down, I'm just passing through, really.
Yeah.
And so I stayed to myself, man. Well,
they say in other prisons, you don't get to say that, you don't get to turn it down. If you're white, you have to get in a car with whatever your race is in states that have big politics. Arkansas doesn't have that though, right? So.
No, not to that extent, man. If you stay in your own lane, you're pretty well straight. Yeah. It's not like California and Texas.
Yeah, it's some real politics.
Yeah,
in California and Texas.
Yeah.
So they don't even really know you, and they automatically try to recruit you.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You could be soft as baby poop in a wet diaper.
Yeah.
They were just trying to snatch you up.
That's it, man.
That's nuts. So you did 8 months?
Yeah.
And you came home?
Came home, man.
How long was you out then?
From the time I got out, to the time that I got a parole violation for absconding, was just 3 or 4 months, I think 4 months. I came home in October, and by January or February, they were sending me back for a parole violation for never reporting.
So how many times have you been to prison?
Just twice.
Twice?
Yeah, just twice.
So the first time was when they told you all that crazy stories on day one when you're seeing the ambulance come in and out.
Yeah.
So what was it like on the second time? Were you scared going back in?
No, second time was they sent me to a Texarkana to an RPF deal, and it was just a daycare. It was a daycare down there, and I knew there wouldn't be no altercations or nothing like that. I was mad because I had to go. I was just ready to get down there and get it over with, come home. That way I could go back to doing what I was doing.
So how long have you been out of prison now?
Um, a year and a half.
Year and a half. So what does your life look like? I know that you just celebrated a year clean, so congratulations on
Yeah,
that.
thank you so much.
It is very hard to get a year clean, and there's something special about that first year of recovery. Did you ever see yourself getting a year of recovery?
Um, yes, yeah, I did. At first, there was a time period from 2018 to 2020 that I had went through a drug court program in Fort Smith, and so I did stay clean for a 2 year period, 26 months actually, and I was working and doing everything I was supposed to do. But 2 months out of that program, after I graduated, I relapsed, and that was a downward spiral for me. And so I had a taste of recovery whenever I got out of prison and got accepted into this program that I'm in now.
What's the name of that?
Next Step Recovery House. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I got to take. I was not working the program then. Whenever I was in uh oh, just had a brain fart in the help me out, Jimmy. What did I just say?
That you weren't working a program?
I wasn't working a program when I was in the drug
Logan
court.
County
No,
Jail?
in the drug court. That's
Okay.
right. Are you even listening to me right now?
Yes, I
Okay, all right. In the drug court program, I was showing up to meetings and stuff like that, but I had a sponsor that just co-signed for my bullshit.
uh,
So I wasn't ever working the steps and working the program properly. Just doing this enough to get by.
yeah.
Um, so, uh, after the 2 trips to prison, and I had a decision to make, man. God intervened. He did, and he basically told me that I can either continue on the path that I'm going on and spend the rest of my life in prison, or I can stop what I'm doing and just follow the path that he's directed me on and have a life worth living.
Yeah.
And so I made the decision, and I put forth the work, and it has been nothing but greatness since.
Yeah.
Blessing after blessing.
Yeah. So now you're a counselor in training.
I am.
How's that feel?
It feels great. It feels amazing. I mean, I haven't officially started, but I'm super psyched and can't wait to get started.
It's a pretty big leap, Zach, to go from accidentally snorting meth thinking it was coke to being a drug and alcohol counselor.
Yeah.
Like that's how you go from being in prison to walking in your purpose.
Yeah.
And so people all over social media, they love you at Next Step, and they love hearing your story. They love seeing your videos and your pictures, and they always want to see more of you. They want to know how you got to us. And so, and now you're the property manager at the men's house.
Yeah.
How's that feel?
It feels amazing. I mean, it blows my mind to just sit back and think about uh, how far I've came in just a short period of time, and to know that I'm only getting started, and it's truly amazing the doors and the opportunities that God has presented in my life. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I owe it all to Him. I do.
When you got out of jail, did you think that you would be running the facility you were moving into?
No, not at all. If you would have told me that was part of if that was going to be part of my story, I would probably laughed. And
So what's been the biggest challenge for you in living in a sober living?
the biggest challenge,
Yeah.
um, I would say time management
Yeah. Okay.
between myself, working on myself and being the property manager. watching over the guys and making sure that they attend their meetings and that's probably my biggest challenge. Everything else is it's just falling into place.
Do you have any kids?
I do.
How many?
4.
What's your relationship like with them?
My oldest son is 15, and it's not as good as I would like it to be, and that's mainly on my part. I'm learning how to be a father. I'm learning how to be a dad, and I'm learning how to be a man, and it's it's not where I would like it to be, but it is going in the direction that I've always wanted to go.
Yeah.
I've got another son, Aiden, and he's 11, and then I've got a daughter, Kylie. She's 9.
Yeah.
And then I've
Future queen of the universe.
Yeah.
She's a handful, boy.
Yeah.
She come up to me on a concert and she said, "You didn't say anything to me when you were on stage," and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
Put me in my place quick."
She's something else.
She loves you, man.
Yeah, they all do, and I love them. I've got a 3-year-old little girl, Kendall.
Yeah.
And then I'm just now starting to be part of her life. And so it's new for the both of us, man.
Yeah, it's funny how addiction breaks our life into 1,000 pieces and recovery picks us up and makes a masterpiece out of those broken pieces.
Yeah.
So I know you stayed celibate for a year, first year of your recovery, right?
Yeah, I did.
Before you got in a relationship. So you're in a relationship now.
I am now.
Special somebody.
Yes. Jessica, if you're listening, I love you.
What do you love about her?
I love everything about her, man.
You know what I love about her?
What's that?
She puts you in your place.
She
talking
does.
Out of line.
She does that, man.
Yeah.
She does that. She is not like, she's on such a whole different level than what I'm used to.
A woman will either make you or break you.
She man, she just encourages me, and every day she drives me to be a better man.
It's good.
And I love that about her.
I can relate to that. That's how it was with me and Chelsea.
Yeah.
I saw you guys outside before the podcast, before we went on. You were praying with her on video call. I thought that was that's a pretty strong statement. A couple that prays together stays together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We do that a lot, man. My kids, when they call her and they're having trouble throughout the day for whatever reason, she'll break down and she'll pray over them. And I just, that's amazing to me. I mean,
it's good.
Yeah.
All right. So Zach, I want to just kind of sum up what I heard you say. Your life was really crap. You were raised by your grandparents. Your drug use started at 12. 17, it got progressive. Your first day in the prison system, you were terrified because of the guy that got beat up, the guy that got beat up and stabbed, and the other guy that got beat up and molested.
Yeah.
First off, I've got to say that is trauma, right? Like we don't emerge from that stuff without some kind of PTSD. You get out, you get a parole violation, you flunk out of drug court, go back to prison. Now you're at Next Step Recovery Housing. You're a counselor in training for Safe Haven, and you're the property manager of Next Step. So,
yeah,
what do you owe this huge turnaround to? If you could sum it up in one sentence, what would it be?
What do I owe it to? Man, I owe it to God, and I owe it to the wonderful people out there that they never stop believing in. They never stop seeing the good in people. There were several people along the ways that helped me. Felicia Lyons, she started the reentry program down in Logan County Jail, and Keisha. Keisha is the jail administrator, man, and she pushed the issue for me. I mean, it wasn't even in full effect. The reentry program wasn't even in full effect. I was kind of like, me and my cousin went through there, and we were kind of like the guinea pigs to see how it was going to happen. We were the first two to go through it and completed it, and then that just opened up a door to Next Step Recovery House, and so I was able to, go from just one completion into, another door opening, and then taking that and running with it. And so there
Yeah.
were just the people that never stopped caring, and God, because without both of those, I'd probably still be, there's no doubt in my mind, I would either be in prison or dead.
Yeah. Well, Zach, I want to give you a chance to tell the listeners uh, and the viewers anything that's on your heart. So you just look right here in this camera and you say whatever your heart tells you to say to them.
Man, just don't give up. I know if you're struggling with addiction and you feel a overwhelming fear and of just an overwhelming sense of hopelessness, um, just don't give up, man. Don't give up, because there's such a better life. And if you will just, for one, stop using drugs, don't get high. That's A1. Don't put any kind of substance in you, and just put forth just a little bit of effort, just a little bit, and it, it'll it'll get so much better, and in such a hurry that it'll overwhelm you. And so if you're struggling, man, just hang in there and don't give up.
Thank you, Zach.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show, man, and sharing your story and your reentry story, man, because you're the proof that people can go from sitting in prison to walking in their purpose. And so for our listeners, please go follow on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the things, TikTok. You can find those links in our profiles. And if you want long form content, it is on YouTube. Please make sure you go like and subscribe to our channel and leave in the comments who your next preferred guest is. We love you, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to From Prison to Purpose with Jimmy McGill. Please subscribe on any of the major podcasting platforms and on YouTube at Prison to Purpose. This podcast is produced by Ty King with American Business Engine and executive producer Jimmy McGill. For more information, visit us at jimmymcgill.org.